WWE delivered tonight. Big time, and it's always so much more fun to talk about the positives of professional wrestling. So without any further ado, let's take a look at what happened at Extreme Rules 2019. WWE just couldn't wait for Finn Bálor versus Shinsuke Nakamura. They couldn't wait until SummerSlam, so give it to us now. Despite the fact that there's not much build to this one at all, Finn, Shinsuke, IC title, pre-show. Great. As for the match itself, this probably wasn't even as good as the match that we saw on Tuesday night on Smackdown. However, there are two very, very good things about this match. The first being that we saw the continuation of the Shinsuke Nakamura that we actually want to see. That strong style offense, the Shinsuke Nakamura that we've not really seen that much of on WWE's main roster. And the second thing, and I'm just completely skipping to the end of the match here, is that Shinsuke Nakamura is our new Intercontinental Champion. A pretty good match. Certainly not as good as we know that these two could pull off. However, it was still fun, and it's the result that fills me with hope. When the match finished, the first thing that Sam Roberts said was Nakamura is back. And to me, that's WWE acknowledging the fact that they have in fact completely botched Shinsuke Nakamura on the main roster, and finally they might just be investing in him and portraying him the way that he should be portrayed. Also, it would have been so easy for WWE to just 50-50 book this. Give Finn his win back following Tuesday night. I thought that's what they were going to do when this was added to the pre-show, so I'm very, very happy that that didn't happen. I'm very excited to see where it leads. Next up is Nese versus Gulak for the Cruiserweight title, and this was pretty damn good. I don't know why I said that, like I'm surprised, because the Cruiserweight pre-show matches are almost always better than like half of the main card, though not tonight. This was still good though. Hometown boy Gulak just charges at Tony Nese straight off the bat. Nese tries to make a comeback, but immediately just gets taken out with a really rough looking lariat off the apron. Just a bunch of lovely sequences, hard hitting strikes from both men. There was a bit of a dodgy 450 at one point by Tony Nese, but it wasn't that bad or anything. Reversal after reversal, and then Drew Gulak picks up the win with the Cyclone Crash. So certainly not the best Cruiserweight pre-show match of the year by any means, but it was still really good. And a nice reminder that we should all be watching 205 live, even though we won't. Main card time, but more like main event time if we're honest. It's the best in the world, Shane McMahon, and also Drew McIntyre taking on the Graveyard Dogs. Hooah! Dong by the t-shirt. Roman and Drew start things off, but it's not long before Drew panics and decides to bring in the real wrestler of the bunch, Shane McMahon, who fortunately gets dominated super quick. Taker beats down Shane for a bit, for he is the best true striker in the WWE. Never quite understood why, but he definitely is. And then Taker and Drew go at it, and there are chants, you still got it, you still got it. Big respect for Drew McIntyre. No, they're talking about The Undertaker, and that must have been pretty nice to hear following the Super Showdown match for sure. Fast forward a bit, we've seen some great wrestling between Drew and Taker, and some surprisingly good wrestling between Taker and Shane McMahon. And then Taker clears off the announce table. He's about to put Shane through it, but no, Elias comes in from behind, slaps him, hits him with the guitar. It shatters everywhere. Drew takes out Taker with the Claymore and then lays him on the table, and Shane hits the elbow and then gets Taker in the ring and hits the coast to coast with a trash can as well. It's gotta be all over, right? No. Taker makes a comeback. He is about to put Shane McMahon away, and then we get this brilliant visual. Drew McIntyre rearing his head behind The Undertaker. He's about to take The Undertaker out, but no, Drew is hit with a spear, and then we get a tombstone to Shane McMahon. 1, 2, 3, and Shane McMahon, the best in the world, has been pinned. Your winners, the Graveyard Dogs. Whoa, dong by the t-shirt. Genuinely, this was great. Not just because it smashed expectations. I went into this thinking, no, this is going to be a disaster. Why are they putting this on first? They just want to get it out of the way so the rest of the wrestling matches can sort of take the bad taste out of one's mouth. But that wasn't the case at all. This was truly brilliant, and The Undertaker looked so good. It sounds patronizing for me, Adam Pacitti, to be saying The Undertaker looked really good here, but obviously we were all worried about him following Super Showdown. He was better here than he has looked in several years. Seriously, smashed it, so good. this is patronizing, but it was really great. So I think we all thought that this match was in place to set up Drew McIntyre versus The Undertaker at SummerSlam, and I'm not sure that we saw too many hints that that match may be happening. I mean, they could build to it on Raw and everything, but last night, I mean, it would have made more sense if Drew had hit Taker with a Claymore and got the pin, and then that sets up the match. That didn't happen last night, and you know what? I'm fine with that. Because if this match happened just so The Undertaker stops having recurring dreams about Bill Goldberg, then I, for one, am very glad it happened. The Revival versus the Usos for the Raw Tag Team titles is up next, a match that hasn't really had that much build, but I would argue that little to no build is a lot better than Usi Hot and Backshaving, and they're two of the best tag teams in the world today, so I'm into it. Just a really good match, exactly what you would expect, the Revival being all clever and heely and outsmarting the Usos hitting all of the great aerial stuff. Essentially, imagine what you think this match would look like in your mind, and you're probably pretty spot on. At one point, Jey Uso has been isolated, beaten down by the Revival. He goes, makes the tag, but the Revival have the referee distracted. And that may seem like not a big deal, but it's actually something that we don't see enough of in tag team wrestling, just classic heel tactics, the stuff that I think a lot of us would have grown up watching. So that was good to see, the Revival on form as always. But let's fast forward to the finish. The Revival hit a superplex splash combination. Jimmy Uso breaks up that pinfall with a splash of his own, but it doesn't last for long. Shatter Machine, your winners, the Revival, still champs. Good match here, certainly not as good as we know that these two teams could pull off together. It did feel a little bit thrown together, I won't lie, and that maybe detracted a bit. The crowd weren't especially hot for it either, but who can blame them? There's not been that much to invest in, except for, hey, this team's really good and this team's really good. So please give us a storyline and let's take this all the way to SummerSlam. Knock knock! Who's there? Cesaro, for some reason. Still haven't quite worked out why it was Cesaro knocking at his... It doesn't matter. It's time for Moody Aleister Black versus Cesaro. So both men almost immediately go for their finishers. Black trying to hit the Black Mass, but Cesaro dodges. Then Cesaro goes for the neutralizer, manages to get out of it, and then Cesaro plays mind games with Aleister Black. He sits on the floor like it's school assembly, and that doesn't sit well with Aleister. Lots of kicks, lots of uppercuts. One of my favourite spots was when Aleister Black went for the knees, but Cesaro catches him, knees like that, catapults him up, hits a big European. Literally, he's from Amsterdam. Hits a big uppercut. Later on, Black hits a big knee to the face of Cesaro, which definitely shook him. But seriously, everything that these two guys are doing just looks so real, so enjoyable to watch, and so different from every other match on the card, which made this all the more special. And there was also really great in-ring storytelling. So Aleister Black had been working the leg of Cesaro with kick after kick after kick, and then Cesaro later on went for a big European uppercut, tried to get him up, but couldn't because his leg gave out, and then Aleister Black just going back for that leg. And there was a great moment as well when Cesaro had the sharpshooter locked in and then transitioned it into a crossface, just all brilliant stuff. At the end, Cesaro is getting desperate. He's just laying in uppercut after uppercut after uppercut, just like that. But Black catches him with the Black Mass, puts Cesaro away. The correct result, for sure. This is Black's big return match. But Cesaro looked great in defeat, truly. As much as a strong return for Aleister Black, this was a great showing of Cesaro, a nice reminder of just how wonderful this guy is in the ring. We're all saying it, but this guy should be a future world champ. In fact, they both should be, but nobody was harmed by this at all. Both men come out looking great, which is exactly the way the match should have been. Alexa and Nikki are up next, challenging for Bayley's SmackDown Women's title. Nikki starts in the ring with Bayley, gets out wrestled, tags in Alexa gets out wrestled. A really, really strong showing for Bayley last night, and one that I'm all for. The numbers game certainly did come into effect at points. There was one moment where Bayley got trapped in the ring apron, you know, Nikki Cross's signature thing, but Bayley starts fighting back like mad, but is then taken out by a sliding dropkick from Alexa Bliss, who then just walks around and slaps her, really stiff slap in the face of Bayley, which sends Bayley haywire. Bayley then starts a comeback. She has both women locked in submission holds. Alexa just bites her way out, and then Nikki manages to get out too. Long story short, Alexa goes for the Twisted Bliss, but Bayley gets her knees up and ends up hitting the big elbow from the top rope on Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross the one to take the pin here, Bayley retaining the SmackDown Women's title. The match was fine. It wasn't one of the better matches on the card, but I do like the strong, dominant win, Bayley overcoming the odds, and doing so without the help of her friend who was being mentioned on commentary. We all know they're referring to Sasha Banks, who's away taking selfies in Japan or something, but Bayley did it on her own, and there are some interesting sort of storyline ramifications of Nikki being the one to take the pin. I thought we might see a heel turn here with Alexa turning on Nikki for losing her the match, and you know, she's no good to her anymore because she couldn't do it even with two of them, but that didn't happen last night, but I guess expect to see that pretty soon. When that turn does happen, and you've got to believe that it's coming, Alexa will solidify her place as one of the top heels in the women's division, a role that she's just really, really good at, and Nikki Cross should be a red-hot babyface, especially if she beats Alexa Bliss, which I would fingers crossed. Next up, it's the last man standing match, Bobby Lashley versus Braun Strowman, and in the words of the commentary team, you might want to grab your helmets for this one, dirty bastards. Lashley goes for Strowman before the bell rings, but quickly gets tossed off over the top rope, and the two start whacking each other on the outside. Lashley then grabs the steel steps and starts bashing it into Braun, and then the two work their way up into the crowd, these two like an audience. Braun then makes a comeback, throwing Bobby Lashley into the merch stand and then just fisting him with punches, trying to make the bald man cry. And then the two men come back into the crowd, and Braun just rushes at Bobby Lashley, takes him out, and then Bobby Lashley picks up Braun and just runs him, smashes him through the barricade. Bobby then ends up pushing the announce table on top of Strowman. Can Braun get it up? He's pushing. The count is at 7. Can he beat the count? Can Braun beat it? He can, he gets up. He ends up recovering and throwing Bobby Lashley through one of the international announce tables, and Bobby Lashley too just manages to keep getting it up. He won't stay down. These two are just scrapping all over the arena. Braun Strowman then starts laying in chair shot after chair shot, and then power slams Bobby Lashley through this huge staging area. I'm not quite sure what to call it, but both men disappear through there. And then the referee starts counting, despite the fact that you can't see if either man has got up. But it doesn't matter, because Braun Strowman is just like the Kool-Aid man. He just smashes through this wall, Braun! And Bobby Lashley is counted down. The 10 count happens. Your winner, Braun Strowman. This match is pretty much exactly what we all thought it was going to be, but at the same time, it exceeded our expectations because it was fun from start to finish. It was just two massive, big, hard, veiny, throbbing men kicking 7 shades of you-know-what out of each other, and it was great. Bobby Lashley didn't look weak in defeat at all. He looked great because he just kept getting up. Braun looks great, obviously. This could have easily just buried Bobby Lashley. That didn't happen. Bobby Lashley still looks credible. I love this. Smackdown Tag Titles are on the line now. Daniel Bryan and Rowan taking on Heavy Machinery and Xavier Woods and Big E in triple threat action. Good stuff here from all three teams, each man playing their role to perfection. They were in quite a difficult position because it just followed the Bobby Lashley-Braun Strowman match, and that was so fun and chaotic and all over the place. I thought the crowd might be a bit more burned out, as they did become later in the night, but no, this was still really enjoyable. Lots and lots going on in this one, so I'm not going to run down everything, but the things that stand out in my mind, the highlights I guess, were Otis's big vertical suplex to Big E, Otis's psych dive to the outside, that was fun. Tucker's real dive from the top, that was great too. Essentially, Heavy Machinery, despite the fact that they didn't win this one, sorry, spoilers, actually came out of the match possibly looking the best, or like looking really good anyway. And I think it's fair to say that out of those three teams, you've got the established team of the New Day, you've got Daniel Bryan and Rowan, who are obviously really great together. Heavy Machinery probably felt like the weakest link here, but in the ring, they didn't feel like that at all, hitting big moves, memorable moments, and just looking altogether great. There was a cool moment where Daniel Bryan got the blind tag, and I thought this was going to be the finish actually. Gets up top, hits the diving headbutt on Big E, and then locks in the label lock, and it must have lasted like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, Big E finally managing to get to the rope. I really thought that was it. The finish itself was just brilliant. Big E turning Daniel Bryan inside out with a clothesline. Daniel Bryan ends up going up top, going for a moonsault. Big E catches him, like just the strength of that man is ludicrous. Midnight Hour, Xavier and Big E pick up the win. 6-time tag team champions in the New Day. I don't quite know how to feel about it. I would have actually preferred to see either team win this one. The other teams, I would have preferred to see Daniel Bryan and Rowan retain, or maybe Heavy Machinery pick up the win, even though I'm not sure it's their time, because I can't be too excited about the New Day being 6-time champions, as good as they are. But I guess we get the visual of Kofi being champion and the New Day having the belts. That's nice. It's not a bad thing by any means. It's just the team that I didn't really want to see win. Meh. So great match as the New Day are celebrating backstage. Paul Heyman walks past, grabs the mic, comes out on the stage and says that Brock Lesnar is definitely cashing in tonight. So watch your backs, Seth Rollins and Kofi Kingston. But is Paul Heyman full of sugar? Is he? What do you think? You're gonna have to watch the rest of the video. Retention. AJ versus Ricochet is up next for the US title. Ricochet makes his way to the ring, but before the match starts, before the bell rings, Gallows and Anderson come in and start beating him down, those dirty heels. Ricochet does start making a comeback pretty quickly, but then gets distracted by Gallows, I think it was, on the outside, allowing AJ to nail him in the back. AJ takes control once again. There's more back and forth, and the crowd at this point are starting to get really burned out. It's completely understandable. I'm not having a go at the Philly crowd because we've just seen so many great matches and big moments and everything has exceeded our expectations so far, so I totally get it, but it did harm this match. Ricochet takes out Gallows and Anderson with a springboard to the outside, and the crowd just aren't picking up at all for any of this. They're just not popping one bit. There's a moment where AJ hits an Ushigoroshi and then starts selling his knee like mad. It looked really real. It looked like it was actually an injury, and it did play into the rest of the match. And then the crowd only really picked up, I remember, when they started doing dueling punches and like the crowd's starting to really get behind Ricochet. Ricochet goes on to hit a springboard shooting star press, pins AJ Styles, but AJ's foot is under the rope. Anderson goes, "Ref, it's under the rope, it's under the rope." Not really Healy, because he didn't like drag the foot and put it on the rope. He was just saying, "Hey ref, do your job." I guess the ref's view was abstract. It doesn't matter. Ricochet goes up top for the 630, but doesn't hit it. Instead, he's taken out by one of the bald men. I'm sorry that they blurred into one here. I think that one was Anderson. He gets taken out, crotched, and then AJ goes up top, hits the Styles Clash, a super Styles Clash, and picks up the win. New US champion AJ Styles. I think this is the right result. It would have really hurt the club, especially so soon after they just got back together, for AJ to lose this one. And now that AJ has that gold, it makes all of the club feel like a proper thing and a legitimate threat. I was very surprised, in fact, not to see Finn Bálor come out in this one, because obviously he lost the IC title earlier in the night on the pre-show. That was a last-minute addition, and I thought that was just going to be setting up for a proper club reunion, which I think a lot of people really want to see. That didn't happen, but still the right result. Ricochet will recover from this, no problem at all. AJ, US champion, I'm all for it. As for the match, it was good. It was probably only a little bit better than the recent Raw showings, but a lot of that did come down once again to the dead crowd, but I'm not having a go, I promise. Time for another match which wasn't previously advertised. It's Kevin Owens versus Dolph Ziggler, and this was perfect. I'm going to go through every single spot in this match, so get yourself comfortable. This might take a while. So Dolph Ziggler slaps Kevin Owens, and then Kevin Owens hits a stunner and pins Dolph Ziggler, and brilliant. That's it. That's literally it. Buried on Twitter, buried in the ring. See you later, Dolph. After the match, Kevin Owens grabs a mic, starts running down Shane McMahon. Another brilliant, impassioned promo, not as long as the one on SmackDown, but still fantastic nonetheless. And please, make Kevin Owens the top babyface of the WWE. He's already better at it than Seth Rollins. No offense to Seth Rollins, but it's definitely true. And Kevin Owens should be the man to finally take Shane McMahon off of TV. He needs to completely ruin him, and it will make him. He can be a star. Please let that happen, Vince. And that match served as a nice palate cleanser for our penultimate match, and that is the WWE title match. The champion Kofi Kingston taking on who should be the WWE's top heel. It's Samoa Joe. Let's talk about this one. Joe did look strong here. Kofi immediately going for a drop kick, and then Joe just flattens Kofi with a huge clothesline, followed by some really stiff kicks and strikes. Kofi Kingston trying to make comebacks, but he can't do it. Instead, Samoa Joe just grabbing him, manhandling him, and kicking him super hard in the torso. At one point, it looked like Kofi's chest had just caved in completely, but then I remembered that's just the way it looks. Joe then traps Kofi's hands between the ring steps and goes bang, just treads. It was really nasty, malicious, horrible stuff. I liked it a great deal, but because he can swear now, because we're blurring the lines of TV, PG, this is pay-per-view, whatever. Does the finger again, proving that that hand still works. But then he's down to one leg and one barely working hand. It's not going to be easy for Kofi to do this. Can he come back? Can he retain his WWE title? Yeah, he can. It's Samoa Joe, isn't it? So Joe just really continues to dominate here. He locks in an STF and Kofi goes for an SOS, but Joe catches him, Coquina clutch. Kofi just about manages to get out of that. And then suddenly, out of almost nowhere, Kofi just hits Trouble in Paradise, and that's it. He wins, and it just came so out of nowhere. This was really surprising, not the way that I think it should have played out, especially after Joe was really dominant. Joe, once again, just losing all of the big matches. He can never win something proper, can he? He'll have the odd TV win, that's fine, but he never wins on the grander stages. And it's really, really frustrating because Samoa Joe just has everything. I'm not saying that Kofi should have definitely lost here or anything like that, but that belt would have looked really good on Joe, and hopefully they find a way to get this through to SummerSlam. In my mind, like, maybe Samoa Joe should have picked Kofi up and Coquina clutched him after the match, after he's lost. Like, he got the surprise kick in, and that's fine. Joe lost, he didn't see it coming, but Joe didn't get anything after the bell. He didn't sort of get back his integrity, like just get some heat back. Didn't happen, and that's really frustrating because the match that I want to see at least at SummerSlam is Kofi versus Joe. I really hope they find a way of making that happen. Main event time, and all the gold is on the line. It's the team of Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans taking on the couple of Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. Lacey and Becky start off in the ring. Lacey shows her ass to Becky because it has Seth written on it, and then Becky just goes boop, kicks her up the bum. The last kicker. Solid content. Baron then grabs a kendo stick, misses with it, and then both the baby faces grab kendo sticks of their own and just start laying into the heels. Really romantic stuff. Baron then with some chair shots. There was a DDT on the chair, and in all honesty, this was all just a little bit slow at this point. Lacey and Becky then on the outside. They both have chairs. It looks like they're about to sort of do some dueling chair stuff, but Lacey's chair just sort of pings up and hits Becky square in the face, but Lacey doesn't give a flying flip and just completely batters Lacey Evans. Seth and Becky then set up some tables, and the crowd are finally starting to get a little bit into this, but they can't use them because Corbin and Lacey attack them, and then the crowd is just completely dead again. They're just waiting for the tables to happen. They do, don't worry. Baron then hits deep six on Seth. Becky just manages to get in and break the pinfall. Then Baron Corbin does something utterly unthinkable in this predetermined faux sporting contest. He grabs Becky Lynch and he hits her with an end of days. Oh my word! Seth is not happy. To add insult to injury, Baron Corbin then calls Seth Rollins a piece of Scheisse. Can I say in German? I'm not sure if that's a he says a very naughty word which sends Seth Rollins over the edge. Weapon shot after weapon shot. Curb stomp. That's not it. Another curb stomp. That's not it either. Another curb stomp, and Seth Rollins picks up the win. Thank the Lord that Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans aren't the big champions, because that would have been a disgrace. But it's not over yet. Paul Heyman, he wasn't lying. Brock's music hits. Lesnar starts walking to the ring and hitting German suplex after German suplex on Seth Rollins. But will the cash-in happen? Yes, it will. It absolutely will. The bell rings. F5, 1 F5, Seth Rollins is pinned, and we have a new Universal Champion. It's happening all over again. Brock Lesnar is the Universal Champion, and I don't know what to say about this. It was a big moment, if nothing else. It's just the problem of Brock being champion again. Hey, at least he's been turning up more recently. I haven't, in my mind, figured out what I think about this. But I will say that Extreme Rules 2019 was fantastic. There was very, very little wrong with the show itself. There are a couple of underwhelming moments. Maybe you could say Alexa and Nikki versus Bayley was a little bit underwhelming. I think it's fair to say that Kofi versus Joe was underwhelming, or at least the finish came out of nowhere, so it felt underwhelming. But largely, this was a great show. It's just that Brock Lesnar is once again the Universal Champion, and I don't know whether to laugh or cry. I think I'll cry. See ya. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. You can follow us on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.